Today, I'm diving into a challenge that might just test the limits of patience, skill, and let's be honest, sanity. Can I beat Lies of P without using the dodge mechanic? Alright everyone, if you're familiar with Lies of P or Souls-like games, you know that dodging is crucial for survival. But what happens when you strip away that safety net? Can I make it through the harrowing streets of this world while facing off against its ruthless enemies without using the dodge button? Well, let's find out. I'll have to be patient, precise, and strategic. So let's gear up and go over the rules. The rules are simple. No dodging. This means I can't use the dodge button at all, although running is allowed. My strategy is going to be timing attacks for perfect guard parry, while running instead of dodging to avoid bigger attacks. I'll also be using weapons and skills to my advantage. Before I dive into my experience with Lies of P, I want to share a few things to set the stage. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that this was my very first playthrough of the game. Despite being familiar with the challenging mechanics found in games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, jumping into Lies of P was an entirely new adventure for me. And let's be real here, I died a lot. Seriously. It was almost comical how many times I died. But this only fueled my determination to press on and conquer the game. It also made every victory that much more rewarding. The Parade Master is essentially the tutorial boss, so I didn't have too much difficulty taking him down. I basically just spammed my heavy attack here and took out my first boss. I reached my next boss fight, the Mad Donkey. This one had a big sword and was very aggressive, but I found if I just circled around to his back, I could do a fatal backstab, dealing a decent amount of damage. This alongside all my stabs managed to take him down, and we could progress on forward.
Then string you up on the bridge. I demanded the truth. Now I feel bad for my comrade.
Not long after the Mad Donkey, I find the scrapped Watchman in the Krat City Hall courtyard. This is the first time you can summon a spectre, and I did just that. I ran in and started the fight, I took way too much damage at the beginning, but ended up running away to let my Spectre take the aggro. The boss wasn't exactly the most difficult, and the Spectre did most of the work. I just had to come in and finish the job. I was making good progress until I ran into the survivor. This guy had very fast attacks and was very aggressive. I had learned from my previous encounter with the mad donkey, so my strategy here was to run away from the attacks, circle around the back, and get a fatal backstab. I know it looks silly, but this method worked for me, and we were able to make him not a survivor.
I can't tell what's blood and what's oil. I wish I hadn't run away. What's blood and what's oil? I'm sorry.
This boss was an optional boss, but I really just wanted to test my skills here and see if I could defeat this giant metal puppet. He squished me a few times, and at this stage in the game I still didn't fully understand all the mechanics. He wasn't too difficult though, as I was able to time his attacks and run in and out of attack range. It took some time, but he eventually fell. found my way through the Vengi works and encountered King's Flame. This was the first boss that gave me some difficulty. I was able to summon a Spectre to help me here, and I was learning his attacks pretty well. The first phase of the fight wasn't too bad, but once he started shooting out things... fire out, things became a little tricky. I found I could outrun most of his attacks, but the most punishing mechanic for me, apart from no dodging, was the overheat that dealt damage over time. I tried a few different strategies, and the successful run was just doing as much damage and avoiding as much of his attacks as I could. This alongside the Spectre was enough for me to defeat the King's Flame. I fought my way to the next boss, fallen Archbishop Andreus. Now this I thought was a really cool boss fight, just the way it was designed and the horror of the abomination I was facing. This was also my first boss that had 2 phases. I did die to this guy a handful of times, but the boss had somewhat slow attacks and I was able to read them well enough in the end. With my Spectre pulling the aggro, I was able to just heavy attack to my heart's content, and eventually I had ticked another boss off my list in this no dodge run. When I reached the end of the Malam district, I encountered the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. The boss I'd have to fight was the Eldest of the Brotherhood, but it wasn't just him I'd be fighting. In fact, I'd be fighting 4 members at the same time. It starts off with the Eldest, who wields a really cool sword that did a decent amount of damage. The other 3 members of the Brotherhood jump in during the fight. I of course summoned my Spectre here to even the odds. I also switched to the Salamander Dagger, as I found it could get in more attacks, as this weapon was pretty fast. It was really good at running behind the enemy for fatal backstabs as well. This fight did test my patience a bit, and I died a lot due to getting stuck in a corner or attacked by multiple enemies. I eventually got the fight down, overcame the challenge, and defeated the Eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. By this stage in the game, I'd picked up some good levels, putting the majority of points into technique and vitality. I'd also picked up one of my favourite weapons in the game, Dance's curved sword. I'd also learnt the importance of perfect guard parry and how strong they actually are. While progressing the game, I found this mini-boss, the Mad Clown Puppet, and I really wanted to take him out. He did mess me up multiple times, but after learning his attack patterns, I took him down, and this made me happy knowing I was prepared for what was to come, and then if I could make it this far without the dodge mechanic, then I was hopeful I could complete my challenge and beat the game. We reached the Estella Opera House and encountered the King of Puppets, or Romeo. I just want to start by saying this was a really awesome boss fight, and I thought it was really well designed. The massive robotic puppet and the setting it was in really immersed me in the game. It was visually stunning. However, this fight was my first real challenge of the game. This fight took me a while and really tested my sanity. and even more so once I had reached the second phase. I died a lot, but with every death I learned a little more. I found my heavy attacks working really well, as this also closed the distance. I eventually got the first phase down pretty well, and if I was lucky my Spectre would still be around for part of phase 2, Romeo. Phase 2 was the tricky bit, as Romeo was very aggressive and attacked super quick. After a few hours of pain and torment, and questioning if I can even beat him without a dodge roll, couldn't give up. Not now. Eventually, I had a very good run. Block was indeed my friend here, and I was able to sneak in a bunch of damage while my Spectre took the aggro. I finally managed to persevere. This actually made me jump out of my seat in excitement. The next boss I came up against was Champion Victor. This fight was pretty straightforward for me, especially compared to the last one. By now, I'd come to rely on my block and perfect guard, and it had been working well. I summoned my Spectre and basically just heavy attacked him until he went down. The second phase of this fight started when he reached half health, and I used the same strategy as the first, just block and heavy attack. It wasn't too difficult, and soon we had a taste of sweet victory. We then traversed our way through the barren swamp and reached the boss arena. Here we meet the green swamp monster. This monster likes to thrash around with big sweeping attacks, but the worst part for me was decay. This would eat away at my weapon's durability, so I had to keep an eye on that and make sure my weapon was in good condition. The attacks were easy enough to read, although without dodge, I had a hard time avoiding his attack where he burrows underground. Phase 2 was a little more tricky, but once again, with the Spectre drawing aggro, I was able to spam my heavy attack, and soon we eliminated another boss. The next boss I faced off against was the Walker of Illusion. Now I didn't have much problem taking this boss down. In fact, I did this without using my Spectre. I timed my blocks well and counterattacked at every opportunity. The most annoying part is when she summons a copy of herself, but I played aggressively here and it paid off. Soon, we had reached the Corrupt Parade Master. Now this boss was similar to the Swamp Monster because it had big slow attacks while also applying decay. At this stage in the game, I was still using the Dancer's Curved Sword, but had switched my Legion arm to Aegis. This arm was super useful as it could block, which was super important, especially if I had run out of stamina. It also did an explosion with a counterattack to add additional damage, which of course is super necessary. This boss wasn't too much of a challenge to me, as I could time him well, and the only important thing I had to watch out for was my weapon's durability. My Spectre wasn't needed here, and it didn't take me long to eliminate another boss. The Black Rabbit Brotherhood. Yes, we meet again. This fight is very similar to the first fight, however, now we must face all of them at once. I found this fight quite challenging and it tested me. The most annoying thing was not being able to focus on one enemy. I died a lot to this boss and it was quite frustrating. But over time, and countless deaths, I slowly figured out a game plan. First I switched my weapon to the two dragon swords which I obtained from beating the swamp monster. This sword was quick and also allowed me to attack and maneuver around the enemies in order to backstab. I had to try and be more aggressive here as being defensive only saw me surrounded. My Spectre was super necessary. Here, as I don't think I could have taken on all four alone. Now this fight wasn't exactly pretty, but I managed to survive and take out the Black Rabbit Brotherhood.
Even if we just face to buy time, you're going down. Danny, you want to owe those out? We're getting revenge together. Die maybe when we couldn't save our brother. That's what our fate will see.
Next we reached the Door Guardian. Now this fight was pleasant compared with the last fight. He was a big boy with slow attacks that I could read and block, although still not perfect. I found that just locking onto his leg and sticking close was a good strategy. I could avoid some attacks here, and after enough damage, he would fall and let me do a fatal attack. I just rinsed and repeated, and the Door Guardian was soon defeated. Now we have reached Laxasia the Complete. Let me tell you, this really pushed me to my limits. I died so many times. I literally had to walk away from my computer and question my life's decisions. Seriously. I can't even put into words how I felt here, and I really thought this is where my run could come to an end. But I had come this far and felt like there must be a way to overcome this challenge. So I died again, and again, and again, and some more, until I found the best possible strategy for me. This was by far the most challenging boss in the game, by a long shot. I used acid when starting the fight, as she is human, acid will do more damage. The acid will also be applied to my Spectre, so another increase the damage. I found the Dancer's curved sword was my best weapon of choice, and using heavy attacks were doing a nice chunk of damage each hit. My Spectre pulled the aggro, allowing me to land more of my heavy attacks, and phase 1 was over. Now is where the hard part begins. I start phase 2 by reapplying acid to my weapon. I also used the cube with the Friendship Wish Stone to heal my Spectre. I took a bunch of unnecessary damage, but lucky my Spectre took the aggro and I was able to continue landing heavy. To my pleasure, everything went well and I eliminated what I thought was my toughest challenge yet, without using dodge. Finally, I had reached the last boss, Simon Manus, the awakened god. I thought I'd be in for the fight of my life here, but funny enough, I beat him on my third attempt. I applied acid on my weapon and spammed my heavy attack, while my spectre kept them busy. The second phase was harder, but I just tried to pump as much damage as I could, and honestly, this wasn't a hard fight for me. After a short battle, we had actually managed to take down the last boss of the game.
The next evolution is coming. A world of truth, not lies.
So, can you beat Lies of P without using the dodge? The answer is yes. And with that, the no dodge challenge is complete. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I had a lot of fun playing Lies of P, and I can definitely recommend this game to anyone who enjoys Souls-like games. I learned how strong block and perfect guard can be, and to make good use of all the equipment and items the game gives. Anyway, that's all I got for this video today. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more content in future. Until next time, peace.